Welcome to the Jeff and Alex podcast. I am Jeff Hilimire, and with my friend Alex Gonzalez, we explore topics that help you be your best self. And we also get to chat with some great guests. So join us now on the Jeff and Alex podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeff and Alex podcast. How are you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. I see you've cleaned up your office over there.
I did. I straightened up some Post-it notes. I put some more kids' art on the walls. Everything's shaping up.
The funny thing is, I always think of when, our brains, I feel like what you see back there is really my brain.
And mine is yours, just like organized.
Just organized. It's like, I know, yours is clean desk, so everything's off.
But see, here's what happens. I get it all out. So
exactly.
It starts off all messed up and I get it out on the walls or into spreadsheets, and then it just clears up.
See, confusion tolerant. There you go.
There you go.
You execute upon it. I just keep the confusion going. So.
Right.
Well, today, Jeff, we have, it's always fun when we get friends, and very accomplished friends, but we have Jo Ann Herold going to be joining us, who's CMO of Honey Baked Ham. It actually has when I think of marketing, there's some names you think about around town, and Jo Ann is absolutely one of them. When do you remember, how long have you known Jo Ann?
I mean,
it's been a while for you.
Oh yeah, it's over 15 years ago. We worked together with my first company when she was at Honey Baked.
Yeah.
And then now when she's a Honey Baked. So yeah, Jo Ann's one of the longest term, I would call it, business relationships that I have.
Wow, well, great. Yeah. And like I said, she's somebody who definitely knows everybody, particularly in the marketing space in Atlanta, and also very purposeful in the work. And make sure, and I'm sure we'll talk about this when we're talking to Jo Ann as well, but you did have an interview on Begin to Begin podcast, and so we will make sure to put a link in the show notes to make sure we go deep in terms of your conversation with Jo Ann and so forth. So we'll be looking forward to that, but let's get this conversation with Jo Ann Herold going. Hey, Jo Ann, how you doing?
Hey, Alex, how are you?
Good. Well, we are so happy to have another great friend on with us here on the Jeff and Alex podcast.
Super excited to be here with you guys.
Well, this is quite the season for you because, first of all, as we set you up here, of course, you're just the superstar and in every dimension possible, and of course, super CMO, and of course, there's so many things we could talk about, but we were thinking about how perfect it is right now that for some reason, I think at Honey Baked Ham, this might be an important time of year. So, we thought we'd talk a little bit about you just being CMO over at Honey Baked Ham, but let's start about that. What does it mean to be an executive at Honey Baked Ham as we record here between Thanksgiving and Christmas? Imagine it's a little busy right now.
Yeah, Honey Baked's awesome. It's a brand. It's a 60-year-old brand that's beloved by the consumers, an iconic brand that is there for consumers' most important occasions, such as Thanksgiving or Christmas or birthdays or anything in between. So we just celebrated our 62nd, I think, Thanksgiving. And fortunately, it was a great Thanksgiving for Honey Baked and our consumers.
Yeah, and I'm just going to say that, what I think people underestimate too, especially here in Atlanta, is how many just iconic brands we have. I just had a conversation the other day with, Stephanie Stuckey's is another iconic brand. And you start going in all these names we have, and you forget Honey Baked Ham over 60 years. So, which probably created opportunity and challenge for you going into Honey Baked Ham, that you have this legacy brand or I guess even beyond legacy brand, just iconic brand, but at the same time you're trying to modernize marketing, in it. So how was that balance going into it?
Yeah, so I don't know if you know this. This is my second time to be at Honey Baked. I was
right.
I was with the brand for 16 years and then left for 8 and went to Arby's, another iconic brand, and Interface, but came back to the brand about almost 4 years ago, and we've spent that time trying to refresh and modernize and update and really attract a new user while we maintain our loyal customer base. And so that's been a lot of fun.
So that, if I'm doing the math right, and we had a chance to work at both of your stints at Honey Baked, that's 20 years at Honey Baked. Did I do that right?
Yeah, so if I go all the way back, I started in 1993. So
Oh, wow.
collectively, I've been with the brand 27 years,
Gosh.
but in total, it's been about 20 years.
Yeah. And it's been exciting to see over the last several years the refresh of the brand and the new ways you guys
Mhm.
are moving into digital. Can you talk for a moment about this year in particular and I know you guys definitely heavied up on the digital side a little bit more but people are still, I mean, the great thing is you've got this brand that people still, it's part of their life. So they were going to
Mhm.
find a way, but can you talk about the COVID year?
Yeah. Yeah, and you and Dragon Army were a big part of our digitalizing the brand, and
This is
we
perfect
did
commercial.
we did about after COVID about 3 years worth of work in about 3 weeks,
Wow.
and implemented buy online, pick up in store, curbside. Did a lot of partnerships with third party. We actually moved some of our marketing budget into digital to drive consumers to our website, and the website being the front door of everything we do. And so we our consumers are ready to adopt technology and the technology that we have, and we're amazed at how quick the lines were and the great service that our stores gave to them as far as leveraging the technology.
So, Jeremy, going maybe a little bit even more to COVID, talk about God, it seems so long ago. Yeah, yet it is a long time ago when that whatever that date in March was, that
Mhm.
it was that moment for everybody. But one thing I'd like to talk about leaders about, but talk about kind of that moment when it hit that. I mean, I can't even. It's hard to even explain it. That we're in the midst of a global pandemic, so there's this massive uncertainty that hits people personally, right? Because you start thinking
Mhm.
about your family. So talk about that moment for you as a leader. First of all, what does that mean in terms of how did you process it? That in terms of your family, but then how did you kind of get ready as a leader beyond just a CMO, just a leader in general for your team to be there for them as well too?
Well, it was interesting, and we followed the pandemic and were
Right.
watching what was going on globally, and had um, crisis plans at the ready. Nobody would have ever believed, though, that it would have happened the way it did in March. But we were following it. Our Honey Baked is very cross-functional, very collaborative. So as it started to unfold, we started having daily scrums with our cross-functional partners and worked very closely with our frontline associates to develop plans and make sure that we were in constant communication with our associates, making sure that first off, our field teams and associates were healthy and safe. Our customers were healthy and safe.
Right.
So everything we did was with that in mind. Um, and I think because it happened in March, our Easter holiday was right on the heels
Mm.
of that. We had to quickly adapt, and that's where we implemented quite a bit of new technology, a lot of practices as far as social distancing and mask, and making sure that we were incredibly safe for the season, and that we were able to execute
You
that
know,
How about
season.
go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, how about for you? How was it for you in terms of that moment as you, Joanne, and family and all of that in terms of how did you kind of how did you center yourself? And I know none of us are really centered yet because this is all still
Yeah,
unprecedented, but
well, I mean, just even thinking back and going to events, and I'm really involved in the ACVB, the Atlanta
yeah.
Convention and
Oh
Visitors
yeah.
Bureau, and we were heading into the year with a record year, and we had a big event, and anyway, it's so unbelievable now to look back on that and think. So personally, there's many blessings with it as well. I've never in my entire career had an opportunity to work from home. And so it's been wonderful to spend time with my daughter, who's 17 and a junior, and in our family. So that piece of it's been a real gift.
Right.
But it's not without its challenges. I miss seeing my colleagues and friends
Right.
and you guys in person. So have really stayed center through journaling and exercise and connecting where I can with my posse.
One of the things I love about your leadership style is, well, two things. One, you lead with purpose, and we talked about that on the podcast we did together. But also, I always think of you as much as you're leading or managing, you're coaching. You see your team as a group of people that you're coaching. You're not trying to micromanage, right? You're trying to bring out the best in them. Um, can you talk about during a time of crisis like we've been through, like has your team needed different things from you? As you think about the marketing organization during, this year, what has your team, what have you had to give them that might have been different than before?
Well, we've done weekly Teams calls and make sure that everybody's on video and we can see, and we do in that way a lot of celebrations and shout outs and recognize folks. Also reach out to them personally, whether it's a handwritten letter or a note or a text, just to let them know I'm thinking about them. Honey Baked as a brand has done a great job also, just making sure that people are connected through town halls and sending things to them. We had a pumpkin spice glaze product that we introduced, and we made sure that everybody in the corporate support center got one and was able to taste it. Our field team stayed very connected that way too. So it's just making sure that we're keeping in touch with people, that everybody has a role through this and understands the role, and if there's any barriers, we're able to break through those and help them out, because some folks haven't. It's harder if you're by yourself and don't have others, so everybody has a different perspective on what's going on right now.
I imagine there's also generational aspects too. For some younger folks in the team, we're putting this in context of, a 100-year event. But for some younger folks, they've never even been through a recession, like like 2008 recession, I think. And so I imagine even as a leader, you probably had to even give context of there's beyond even a pandemic, there's just some realities that companies has to deal with whenever there's financial pressure at a time like this, I'd imagine.
Exactly. So for the younger folks, that's true. And for folks like my parents who never been through this either, it's and they're really on the go, and it's just making sure that everybody's safe, and then again that we're all connected and checking in and making sure everybody's okay.
So then here's a real important question. Then over the course of this summer, what was any TV show or movie that you also fell in love with over the course of being at home, and excluding Honey Baked Ham, your favorite kind of carry out order in thing?
Oh, so TV show.
Because I'm assuming it'd be Honey Baked Ham, because Jeff and I, we just finished ours. So
awesome. I've watched lots of Netflix. The Undoing is one I just finished that was great on actually HBO. Read lots of books. Just finished Give and Take, which is a great book that I think it could have been written for Jeff. Also,
what we give and he takes, is that what you're saying? Actually, it's not. That's so not Jeff. I'm just Just joking, everybody.
So as far as foods, we've done a lot of Uber Eats and tried to support our local restaurants and make sure that they're getting the support they need. So whether it's pizza or Zoe's Kitchen or Chipotle or Double Zero, had a lot of good food during this.
Yeah. You talked about journaling. That's something that, Alex, do you journal?
I do use a journal for kind of the ideation kind of creation thing. So not so much journaling in terms of logging, this is what occurred, but I do have this, and I'm a little bit of a book snob on this stuff for kind of inspired things or kind of a thinking, almost like a continuous whiteboard sort of thing.
Gotcha. And presumably though, Jo Ann, you're talking about more like daily journaling.
Yeah, Jeff, we've talked about this, the full focus planner. It's setting forth like annual goals, monthly goals, daily goals, and just kind of writing through how I want to live each day with purpose and passion and kindness, and also being grateful for what's going on.
And you do that each morning, is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. My, you've always struck me as a very grounded person. And especially when things aren't, perfect, you're still able to sort of be present and handle it. You're not, is that, do you have other, things that you do that, you said exercise, do you take breaks? Alex and I have a episode we recently launched on sabbaticals. Like, how do you kind of clear your mind and center yourself?
Well, in the morning, I'll think through, and this is even before I get up, what am I worried about? What do I need to tackle? And, and sometimes I'll get a pit in my stomach, and then I'll change my perspective on it and think about it positively and try to tackle the things that are concerning me most first and get those off the list. And then, and once that's done, and usually things are never as bad as you think they are. Once that's done, kind of clear my head, get through the day, try to exercise, do a little bit of meditation, and that helps a lot too, just to clear out anything that might be bothering me, and then get about the day.
I was going to ask you if you meditated, because Jeff and I had a conversation about that earlier. Do you use one of the app, the
yeah,
or one of those apps?
I've become obsessed with Peloton.
Oh yeah.
And Peloton not only has the great bike, but they've also have great meditation and strength exercises. So I've been using the meditation on the Peloton app.
Now, did you get Peloton during the pandemic, or did you already have it before? Because of course, Peloton and NordicTrack record sales right this summer.
I had one before, but I didn't use it very often. And so that's been during the pandemic. I've celebrated 100 rides, the Century Ride on the Peloton, and then probably have done 350 different workouts on Peloton. So now it's kind of part of my life.
And your tennis, you play a lot of tennis, right?
Well, that's been very humbling. I take a lot of lessons. I take them early in the morning, and I was a rock bottom beginner, had never really played any kind of racket sport, so wanted to learn something new. So that's been fun, but super humbling.
Super humbling. Got it.
Well, that's the relatively safe sport, right now during the pandemic as well. Although I had not done it. Although I do join you, Jo Ann, in terms of the kind of the cycling craze during the summer is definitely something that I found myself stumbled on, along with meditation, which Jeff refuses to do. He says that just doesn't have patience for it, which I'm like, well, that's the point.
Yeah, I know.
But So that's good. It's good to see that you're doing that as well too. So Jo Ann, one of the things, kind of coming back to also kind of your marketing experience as well. That if someone's listening or that's younger, there's a lot of young talent that wants to get into marketing, and I know you give incredible advice to people of all generations or all experiences. But for someone who wants to kind of get into marketing, because you've really, as we've known each other, and as the three of us have been on different kind of marketing forums, you've definitely been both curious and also execute in terms of what marketing should be or can be versus just what it was. So if you start thinking about someone who wants to get into marketing, what's kind of that advice you give them and to kind of how to get into it and how they should be thinking about it?
So I started as a marketer at McDonald's, and I was a star, which is a store area representative, which meant I gave the
I know you
birthday
are a
parties.
star. That's
Well, it meant I gave the birthday parties and wore the Hamburglar costume
oh wow.
and did local store marketing for a franchisee. But what I learned from that, and that was very humbling. But what I learned from it is I loved being a part of iconic brands, love the hospitality industry, and the ways that you can make people happy through everyday interactions. And so as a result, studied communication and journalism and marketing, and just got lucky through my career and got the opportunity to work for some great brands along the way, and was able to be a part of the marketing group. But I really started at the bottom and worked my way up. But I think for younger folks getting into marketing, it is that you kind of got to start at the kind of entry level, learn it, but it's easy to move up the ranks if you're able to show results, be a part of the team, drive, help grow a business, and continue to have that curiosity and learn and be a part of how the consumers are changing. And for me, being a part of a brand like Honey Bake that's so iconic and has been around for a long time, to be able to watch how consumer behavior changes and integrate those changes to grow and drive our business is what a marketer needs to do. And I think what anybody growing up through marketing should do.
Yes, like that natural curiosity, it kind of leads to the growth of a marketer, and I think for any leaders as well too.
Yeah.
Jo Ann, I got a question for you. So I've written a book or two. Alex is working on a book. What's the book that you're going to write one day? What would you write about if you're publishing a book?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. I think it would be around what other successful people do, what they've learned along the way, how they've built their purpose. So it would be more around human connections, but then also leveraging some of the brand work that maybe I've done in the past too. I know with some of the purpose work, I started that, and I actually started it because of encouragement from you, Jeff. But it was really leveraging some of the brand frameworks that I've used from other businesses and figuring out how to help others do the same.
Well, Jo Ann, as we got to wrap up here, Jeff, I want to, because we all are marketers on this call here, so we shamelessly plug our all of our podcasts, and so. But I do, Jeff, why don't you kind of give the quick plug about your Begin to Begin podcast with Jo Ann, so if people want to even learn more and get deeper into, particularly into purpose. kind of talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So Jo Ann and I are two of the leaders in town that really feel like purpose is driving us. It's hard to find others that talk about purpose as much. We're probably annoying everybody at this point using that word, but I definitely, as we talked about her journey, I wanted to pull out of her where her purpose came from and how she leverages it, and so we talked a lot about that. Jo Ann, what else do you recall from that conversation?
Oh, we did. We talked about Ocean Springs and
Yes,
our, roots and beginnings and
that's
being a
right.
first child.
Yep. That's another thing we did talk about. We're very driven and organized. Even if my background doesn't look like it, you guys are super organized in the background. But that first child syndrome of having to be responsible.
But you're not obsessed with project management tools like Jeff, though, Jo Ann, are you?
No, I don't think anybody's as
It's
it's not just me.
It's a problem. It's a
I love when you
problem.
work with one of your friends because you start learning their idiosyncrasies, and it's like,
Yeah.
Jeff wins.
Guilty.
Oh yeah. Oh no, listen, we're organized. It's just I just haven't been following up on the emails. That's all. But
Yeah.
Well, Jo Ann, this has been fabulous. I know we could go into so many things. We didn't even get a chance to talk that, we're both on, working on some, we're on a board together that we didn't even get to see each other this year because of the pandemic with ACVB and some other friends. And we have so many common friends and colleagues here. I'm sure we'll have more to talk about as we move forward, and perhaps even do this, as Jeff and I talk about, do it live one day. But these conversations always remind me how much I miss seeing people in person. So it is absolutely great seeing you, once again virtually. But make sure you everybody to listen to Begin to Begin and the discussion between Jeff and Jo Ann to get even deeper. But Jo Ann, thanks for your time with us today, and thanks for being on the Jeff and Alex podcast.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Jeff.
It was great to see you.
Great to see you. Have an awesome day.
That was Jo Ann Herold here on the Jeff and Alex podcast. It's always so fun to talk to her.
She's such a bright light. That's one of my favorite things about Jo Ann, her spirit, her energy. That was great.
Yeah, no, that's a great way to describe it. I mean, you see Jo Ann whenever she reaches, and she is, I mean, and we talk about someone being authentic. I mean, she's someone that she will respond to you. She will do favors. She is just so sincerely such a good person.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed having her on the show. There's so many more things we could talk about, although we did end up talking about quite a bit there in those 20 minutes, which is great. But definitely, and also just to remind everybody to plug your show once again, Jeff. But make sure you listen to the full interview of Jo Ann Herold on Begin to Begin with Jeff Hilimire. He's a pretty good podcaster. And
Thanks,
so with that, everyone, make sure you also follow us here on YouTube or on your favorite podcast platform. Subscribe to the Jeff and Alex podcast, or also subscribe to Begin to Begin and also Disruptor Studio. It's a package deal. We'll figure out some sort of discount. We'll give you all those podcasts for free. How about that? If you subscribe to all three of them.
What a deal.
Yeah, so it's a great deal. Only during December here, December and January, 20 and 21. And also make sure you follow us on social media. Continue the conversation with both Jeff and I. And so, Jeff Hilimire, great talking to you. Great seeing you again, and look forward to having more chats with our friends and with you.
Same. Looking forward to the next one.
All right, we'll see everybody later.